promise I'm going to get you guys out of here quick. I know it's the last talk, well, right before the final speech. So I'll get to it. I'm going to talk about something extremely similar as our previous speaker, which is recovering from a massive Google update. I hope to hit some of the things maybe that weren't covered. A lot of them were covered, which is just great. I think it was an amazing presentation, and I can definitely feel that pain because I went through the exact same thing with a client. So this particular client was a very large manufacturer. You've all heard the brand. I'm under NDA, so I'm not allowed to say the brand name because I no longer work at the agency where this all happened. Shout out to Red Door if you're in the room. But I was a senior strategist at this company, working on their website, and basically, well, let me pause. Let me go back. Let me start here. Who's been hit by an update? Almost everybody in the room. Okay, awesome. Penguin, Panda, right? We've been through all of these. We all kind of know how to get through them. If you've been in the industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, bench over here. We kind of know the basic frameworks. So what I'm going to sort of talk to you guys about is one where the basic frameworks didn't seem to work. So the way that it worked, we basically had a really good relationship with this client. We had them for years before I came on. I came on in 2023, and we played a very, very safe and conservative SEO strategy. You can see here from January to September, we were up 43% over those 3 quarters. As you can see, obviously there was a little bit of dips, month over month, but in general, every monthly client call was just great. You sit in the room, numbers are green. If numbers are a little bit red, you can kind of say, yeah, but we kind of know why. We're gonna, fix a few things, do a little more on page, work on a few more of the technical stuff, and just kind of continue to boost you guys up. And overall, it was just a great strategy. Conservative, but it was working, right? Then, one October day, things took a slight turn. Page 1 rankings dropped minus 20% month over month. And as you can kind of see, we had a couple of months where things had dropped, but this one in particular coincided with something happening around September of 2023. Who knows what that was? Helpful content update, exactly. So, when you're reading the blogs and you're going online and kind of talking to your peers, you're like, okay, this one might be an issue for us. However, if you've been through the years of SEO, you've been through many an update. Personally, what I do when something happens is, and I think a previous speaker said the same thing, don't panic. You've been through this before. More than likely, next month, you'll get half those rankings back, right? A lot of times, Google throws out an algorithm update, shakes things up, and then listens to what the users are doing and realizes like, oh no, we made some mistakes. Let's bring some of those rankings back that we previously had, right? Well, that didn't happen. Another month, just massive drop. So you start to get a little bit more worried, especially if you look at this trend line and how well we were doing over time. This is a client paying really good money for us to keep their traffic increasing, keep their rankings increasing, and all of a sudden, 2 months in a row, we're starting to really eat into all the progress that we made, right? So it's starting to get a little bit more worrisome, starting to take a little bit closer look at what's really happening with this particular update, right? And then by December, our page 1 rankings had dropped 35%, essentially negating, for the most part, all of the improvements that we had made over the course of the year. So this is where 3 months go by, and you realize that the strategy that you were working with for so long, the sort of conservative strategy of just focusing on your product pages, making sure that you're getting your technical down, really needs an update. And of course, the clients are waiting and wondering what your next move is, right? And it's also December, which is not a good time to have data like this when you're trying to get re-signs. Fortunately for us, the client was had such a long history with us. They did trust us, and they really wanted to hear what our recommendation was going to be to get these rankings, this traffic, these conversions back for them. So I'll pause there and take a little bit of a step back. So what do you do when you've been hit by a massive update like this? 3 months have gone by, you're really kind of dumbfounded because you've been in the industry for so long, you've been through, Penguin, you've been through Panda, Hummingbird, you name it, and you've always figured out a way to kind of bounce back, or maybe even didn't really take that big of a hit because you were being so conservative with your SEO campaign, not, buying links, not doing a lot of that sort of black hat stuff, so you weren't really that worried about a lot of these other ones, right? This one in particular was different. So, a little bit of a framework. What do we do? So personally, you just rely on your SEO experience. That's like the foundation. If you've been doing this for 3 years plus, you have a really good foundation. You basically know how it works. So start there. When that kind of runs out, which it does for all of us, no matter how many years you've been doing it, then you start to consult your network. Reach out to your mentors and really just ask them what they're seeing. What are you seeing with your clients? Really just sit down with everybody that you possibly can and gather the consensus of those folks that you really trust. And then confirm with the community, right? So the community at large, maybe that's LinkedIn, maybe that's folks you follow that you really trust, and really see what they're talking about, because they're definitely going to be talking about this. And basically use all 3 of those pieces of the framework, put them all together, and then come up with your plan. And it always comes down to audits, right? You're always going to have to do some type of audit. If it was a backlink update, you're going to do a backlink audit. If it was a helpful content update, you're going to do a content update, or a content audit, right? If it was a technical update, then you're going to do a technical audit. What we chose to do was obviously a very in-depth content audit. And, this was one that was a little bit different since it was the helpful content update looked at not just specific pages on your site or individual pages on your site, but it took a look at your entire website. And so that was the big difference and why we got hit. And I'll get into a little bit more of the details of why. But we also wanted to do a technical audit just to kind of cross our T's and make sure that there wasn't something technical that we were missing. We didn't need to do a backlink audit because, like I said, we were being very conservative. We knew that there really just weren't toxic links coming in unnaturally, so didn't need to do that. So what was this content audit really about, and what did we change that we normally would have done? So I think the big thing here is that once you started reading up on the helpful content update, you learned that it was a site-wide update, which was something relatively new at the time. It wasn't something that any of these updates before really hit us with. So that was a big thing. With SEO, you always just took the budget that you had and you focused on the marketing pages, the product pages, the service pages that made your clients the most ROI, right? So that's where you focus. You don't have so much, when you have so much budget to use, you got to put them into where your client is making the most money. But for this one, we expanded the scope of our audit to include all the sections of our site, not just those SEO priority areas. And this was a massive site with thousands of products, tons of support pages that honestly, we never touched the support pages because it wasn't a marketing priority, right? So what we learned after doing this full site audit, we added things like semantic duplicate detection, which is a really cool way that StreamFrog has added to their tool where it can utilize a lot of the LLM technology to understand how closely related different ideas are within your content, turns that into math, and then shows you mathematically where you have duplicate content. That's a great thing to add to any content audit that you're working on. We did a deeper engagement analysis, so looking and using Google GA4's engagement metrics for a more accurate read on user behavior, more accurate than what we had from Universal Analytics. And then we updated our SEO scoring model based on all those numbers. And what we found was that the support section was absolutely abysmal. People were having a terrible time navigating. There was super thin content. There was duplicate content all over the place. It literally hadn't been touched in 5+ years with any type of certainty, any type of framework. And so that really was the culprit, which is, I know it sounds kind of like an obvious thing now, but when you're in it, when you're working SEO and you're just trying to improve your client's revenue, you don't worry about vast sections of the site sometimes, and then a content update like this, or a helpful content update like this happens, and that's where you need to start really re-examining how you're looking at websites. So now that we found the culprit, the rest of the story is pretty basic, right? We rolled up our sleeves and we did what you absolutely have to do whenever you find a website that needs a lot of work, and that's to start with information architecture. So this is something that, from a historical standpoint, I would say is the number one thing after every client site that I've ever worked on that I can point to and say that it has had the most results over my entire career. This is where you take a look at all of your content, you categorize it, and you make subcategories exactly where it makes sense to you, the keywords that you want to rank for. And then you do your internal ranking. So having a world-class information architecture system is really the foundation, I would say, and the backbone of all SEO, in my opinion. Then we worked on the UX of the category pages. Looking at those category pages for the support section that they honestly hadn't looked at for years. They were terrible, they had no images, they were all over the place, difficult to navigate. So and the other thing too that we wanted to do was that we didn't want to ask the client to design anything new. That was a big part of this, was trying to make this work within their budget. So we looked throughout the marketing side of the section, or of the website, and found all these great templates that we could use for category pages. So we ported those over to the support section and built awesome category pages that were easy to navigate, clearly labeled, and really just made it as painless as possible for folks to go and find answers to the issues that they had with their products. And then we did a massive content gap analysis. We looked at all the keywords that we could be ranking for the support section, which again, sounds basic, but not when you're talking about a section of the site that really had no marketing value whatsoever before. Now you're doing full keyword research around a lot of branded terms. They had thousands of SKUs, thousands of error searches, so we basically created a whole content gap analysis around what people were really looking for when it came to their brand and their products that were not working, and we built that out. We noticed that when we would search for some of this online and Google, our client didn't even come up, even though it was their product that people were searching for and how to fix it. joesmechanic.com was coming up and answering these questions, but not our client. So we had like I said, we put this all together and created a ton of content to fill those gaps. And then we optimized and added context for the content that we did have appropriately. We created, huge knowledge-based articles. Again, something you would never think to do from the support section, but we did all of the stuff that we knew works from the marketing section, and we built out these knowledge bases and basically just put as much time and effort as we possibly could into these sections. We fixed scores of duplicate content. In some cases, there was like 5 of this exact same article or the exact same fix of something all throughout the site. We found all of those, consolidated them, and fixed that issue. And after literally 6 months of planning, writing, optimizing, we finally launched our first rebuilt section. And these were painful meetings every month, just saying, we're still working on the support section. Every month it's a client call and hey, we're down again, we're continuing to, we haven't moved at all. Yeah, I know, you know how we're still working on that support section, right? But after 6 months, we launched their main section, and we basically got all of the rankings back as it would have been the previous year. So needless to say, August was like the highlight of the year. When your strategy comes together like that, especially after, to be honest, just hoping all this stuff works. Obviously we did our due diligence and we did our best, but to see it actually come to fruition is just amazing. And then, of course, the next month, the tech team, I think the previous speaker said this as well, the tech team was not talking to the marketing team, they launched a whole new section and drove a bunch of 404s that, again, tanked us. So the moral of the story there is communication. But then, by the end of the year, by December, we not only gained all the traffic that we had lost, we ended up where we probably should have been the year previous. So again, just looking at this data and kind of watching this throughout time, it really goes to show just trust your team, trust your own foundation, and trust your mentors, and then put that plan in place and make it happen. And the clients will have confidence in you if you have confidence in the strategy. Thank you so much. Check us out at the booth. We're at 55. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.